You are on the channel Cataclysms. Thank you very much for your activity and support. Each of your likes and comments helps in promoting the channel. Review of events for January 1st. People of Sakhalin for blizzards closed several sections of the highway. Passage is limited on the routes leading from the village Ogonki to the city of Nevelsk, from Nevelsk to Kolmsk, and from Nevelsk to Shabunin. Though Emergencies of Russia and the Sakhalin region recommends that drivers refrain from traveling in the specified direction and plan the route in advance, taking into account weather conditions. On January 1st, the southern part of the island was covered by a cyclone that brought with it wind and snow. Local residents are asked not to travel outside settlements without need. A sudden landslide descended last Wednesday in the Norwegian town of Ask, which is located less than 40 kilometers northwest of Oslo. More than a dozen houses have been completely destroyed in a residential area of the city. By Wednesday evening, police had no data on the whereabouts of 11 people from the area. In such a situation, search-rescue efforts continued through the night despite nightfall. At least 10 people were taken to hospital during the day, but none of them seriously suffered. About 900 people were evacuated from the city. In total, more than 1,500 residents are expected to be displaced. The landslide left behind a huge ravine 700 meters long and 20 meters wide, which local authorities say makes it the largest landslide in recent memory. There were at least 14 homes where the ravine is now, according to Norwegian police. After police arrived at the scene, several subsequent rock collapses occurred and the affected area is still in a precarious state. This forces the main rescue work from the helicopter. On Wednesday afternoon, after 1,500 hours, 2 more houses crawled into the large pit formed in the city. Over the past day, 84 cases of fire occurred in the residential sector of Ukraine. HCH urges citizens to take care of the fire safety of housing. In Ukraine, the last day of 2020 and on New Year's Eve, 9 people were killed in fires. The fire started in a forest in Sochi during a fireworks launch, with forest litter catching fire next to the village of Upper Yurt in Sochi on an area of 500 square meters. According to eyewitnesses, the ignition occurred during fireworks starting. Emergency services staff managed to localize the fire. Nothing threatens the settlement, said in the Ministry of Emergency Situations. 36 people and 11 pieces of equipment were involved to eliminate the fire. Air pollution in Kiev slightly less. In the period from December 28 to January 2, 2020, in the air of Kiev there was an excess of the maximum permissible concentrations for the average daily content. Compared to the previous week, the level of air pollution by some impurities decreased slightly as a result of rainfall. According to forecasts of the Ukrainian Hydromet Center, in the next few days, due to the probability of fog formation, it is possible to increase the concentration of some contaminants. Such meteorological conditions will not contribute to the dissipation of harmful substances in the ground layer of the atmosphere. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and put likes for us, this is very important. A powerful tropical storm dubbed Chalana made landfall near the city of Beira, Mozambique, with the storm bringing heavy rain and wind. The area destroyed by Cyclone Idai almost 2 years ago. Beira's low-lying coastal city with a population of 500,000 is the country's second largest city. The government asked residents in the storm's path and near rivers to move to safer areas. Wind speeds reach 85 kilometers per hour with gusts of more than 120 kilometers per hour. The storm is moving through central Mozambique toward Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, the government has begun evacuating people from eastern parts of the country. Zimbabwe's Department of Meteorological Service said there was a high risk of flooding in the region. About 1 million people have been displaced or isolated for months out of the worst flooding ever sightings in this small, unaffluent African country. Consider such an intense rainy season a sign of climate change. The water level in the rivers began to rise 6 months ago, washing off crops, waterlogging roads and increasing hunger and disease in a young country, trying to recover from the civil war. The main threat to the inhabitants of the country is now starvation. According to locals, the water level in rivers and reservoirs continues to rise, dams and levees continue to break down, residents are forced to leave their homes, often without the most necessary. Flooded pastures from hunger perish cattle. In some parts of the country, residents eat tree leaves and only occasionally fish to survive. Fevers, malaria and diarrheal diseases are common among the population. The climate changes that are taking place on the planet now are too fast and will inevitably lead to irreversible consequences, but humans can influence slowing climate change. Climate changes that were even before the advent of humanity on the planet are incomparable to those that are happening now. These changes are very rapid, and climate change is perhaps the most massive and serious threat that is facing us now. At the same time, it is so immense that it is difficult to go out of the house and say, indeed, climate change is very important and something must be done with it. If it's not a person who works in a public organization or in government with this issue, then ordinary people sometimes do not think about why winter has become warmer. This pattern, or perhaps the situation, will change every year. Experts urge not to ignore this problem and take decisive action, because only we can stop the destruction of the planet ourselves. Forest litter on an area of 500 square meters caught fire on the territory of Twapsa district of Krishnadar Krai. Fire of forest litter happened in the 28th quarter of Twapsa forestry. Forces for extinguishing are concentrated in Lazarevsky district of Sochi, in Alay, Mali Kichme. 64 people are engaged in liquidation of fire. 13 units of equipment are used. Employees of Twapsa forestry arrive at strengthening. On December 30th, the cause of forest fires in Krishnadar Krai became known. The press service of the Department of Forestry said that the ignition arose because of the human factor. Increase of fire danger is being noticed in two regions of the country, in the Krishnadar region and Republic of Karachay-Cherkessia.